Good day. This is the first of two videos which presents the flow of data as it is uploaded into TreePlasm, starting with new infusion material and the information about it. This material is uploaded as clones which are put into a clonal breeding orchard. The clonal breeding orchard produces seed which goes into a first generation progeny trial. We collect data and upload that, as well as clones, which then in the second video will be placed into a first gen seed orchard. From the first gen seed orchard, seed will be collected and placed into a second gen progeny trial from which data will also be collected. Enjoy. Right, let's look at this dataset which we have before us. We have a list of treatment numbers and seed lots which came from certain clones which were in a certain orchard called ACCS 003, and that orchard had these particular row plot positions, and those particular clones, I believe, came from this provenance. These seed lots in turn were used in this particular trial where data was captured. Now let's see how we upload this information into TreePlasm. First, I need to note that TreePlasm uses the allocated row of headers for importing, and where we have merged cells such as the ones here, this can be problematic. So we will make a new dataset with only one row of headers. I've done so here, and I've extracted various bits of information from that previous spreadsheet and placed it here for upload. Our first task is to upload the brand new infusions which came from these provinces listed here. These provinces came from a particular region, and these regions need to be entered into TreePlasm. So we need to check that these provinces are in TreePlasm. We'll do that shortly. Just also to note that the system needs to know something more about clone 10 and all the other clone numbers. It needs to know what species it is, obviously, and it also needs to know, is it a clone or a seed or source, etc. So we've included those two columns here, and right at the bottom there was also something called filler later on. So we've included filler, which was seed half sib, and we've made it coming from the Fiji provenance in the Fiji region. Let's have a quick look at regions now in TreePlasm. Regions are places, so we go to places and regions, and we need to see if there is something called Fiji there. No, there isn't. So now we're going to add Fiji. The region name is Fiji. Region, exactly the same as in the spreadsheet here. The code we can call FR, and we need to add a country called, which is not yet on the system, called Fiji. And we will give it the code F. Now we save this region, and we see in the screen bar that it's been successfully saved. Let's just check what other regions are in the list. There's something called PNG region. So let's check if it is here. Search. We find it's not there, so we add it. I'll just call it PNG, or perhaps, and let's see if Papua New Guinea is in the list here. It is, so we just select it and save. Right, so now we've made sure that this is in the system. We also need to make sure that the species are represented in the system in TreePlasm. So we go to our lookups and species. Seeing as we're using the abbreviation ACC, we had better search for the abbreviation and make sure that it's there. No, it isn't. Let's just see if AC is there. Yeah, but not what we're looking for. Just to make sure, I'm going to look on the species name. No, it's not there. So we're going to add it. It's an acacia. Crassicarpa. And we're using the abbreviation ACC, as you can see here. And we save. Right, now we have got more information about these clones. They are the new infusions which have been included into the system, which need to be included into the system, and we've got sufficient information to upload new infusions, which is our first step. So how do we upload? We go to data uploads, the bottom here, and we say add. We give it a description. Let's describe it perhaps using the trial name which we have up here, which is ACPFT21. ACPFT21, and we can say NI for new infusions, and we can search for that file, which is this one. It's our first sheet which we're working on now, and we can go next. The clone name is actually the germplasm name. We can match that. The species we've matched automatically. The probable we matched automatically. The provenance name needs to be matched. Provenance name. Region name is there, and we click upload. Line 45 and 46 had problems, but the rest have been successfully uploaded. Let's look at line 45 and 46. It is telling us that that germplasm is already in the system, so that shouldn't be a problem. There is probably a duplication of 78. If we look here, there's 78. It's been duplicated, and it's likewise 413. Now to confirm that the new infusions are all there, we can go to new infusion germplasms here. And I like just searching on last edit today. Search. And here are the clones from these new infusions with their names. And it tells us that there are 44 which were uploaded. That would be those, barring the ones which gave us problems, which are duplicates in any case, so it is correct. Right, we now come to the second tab derived from that original spreadsheet. And this is where we're going to construct the clonal seed orchard, which was established with the new infusion germplasm. The new infusion germplasm being these clone numbers here. So we need to make a trial, or an orchard in fact, that has this material in it, so that we can say this is which tree we used to collect seed from for the next generation. First step is to check that the trial names, in this case there's just one trial name, are in TreePlasm. So I have included a column here just saying this is the trial name in which we will find this clone and at a certain position, which we'll talk about shortly. So let's first go to TreePlasm and just look up this trial. And we put in the orchard name that we're looking for and search. It's not found. Right, so we need to add it. I'm going to add the name. I'm not going to put in extra information about it, just to say that this is an orchard. We're going to give it an arbitrary parenting date of, say, 2010 on that date. And the orchard status, let's say it is active. And we save. Right, it is saved. However, I draw your attention to the fact that it says that plots or blocks are required. If we go to the dataset, we see that we have blocks, and which we could regard as replicates or blocks. We have rows, which is fine, and then we have this was originally called trees. However, we will find that there will be a conflict if we call this trees, because it's not unique, and there will be more than one tree for a particular block row combination. So what I've done to solve that problem is I've called trees columns, and I've got block rows and columns, and then I've added a column and just said this is single tree plots with one tree for every row column position. So I've added that information. I've also added the fact that the clone is a clone, so that the system knows to look up for clones when it populates this trial. And I've also told it what species it is, so it knows which species it's looking at. We now go to TreePlasm to upload this. We are now therefore using block row columns and not block plots and trees. We need to register that in TreePlasm. So I'm going to go back to this trial and edit something here. I'm going to go down to this important little check button and say I'm going to uncheck it, that we don't have plots, and save that. Now we go to uploads, and we want to upload plot row column positions and trees from the list. You can either do it here or here. This one would require entry names and numbers, So let's take plot row column position from trees. And the trial which we're wanting to create is this one right up front here. We can say ACC S003 orchard 1. We have just recently used this dataset, so we can just reuse it, and it hasn't changed since then. We're now going to use sheet 2 and go next. We can pair off the site name. Not really required when there's only one site and we've put it up front. The germplasm name, those are all correct. Now the row will be row and the column will be column. Tree number will be tree, and upload. Okay, no complaints, it's done it. Let's go and have a look if we can find those trees for that orchard. Let's look for our new one and filter on it. And there it is, and there it says there 29. If we go to our spreadsheet, now from this seed orchard ACCS03, we collected seed and gave that seed new numbers and put it in a trial. So our next step is to create the families coming from this seed orchard. I've put that on the next tab. There are the new seed lot numbers. We're telling the system that they are half subseed, collected from that orchard, and this is a row, the block, the row, and the column, and the tree from which the seed was collected. In this data set, we did have some problems with the last entries not having information. So once we've got this table ready, I've also renamed tree again to column and put in tree there. And once we have this ready, we go to TreePlasm and we upload the families, which is the germplasms. Okay, so now perhaps let's just call it ACCS003 seed, or families, let's call it families. I can use the same dataset again. We're now on sheet 3. Let's just check that. Yes, see sheet 3. We go to the bottom and we say next. The seed lot is the germplasm or family name. The probagule is probagule. The source will be the trial from which we collected the seed. The block is the block of that trial, the row of the trial, the column is a column. Because we're dealing with a row column seed orchard as we described earlier, we've now paired these off and we can upload. Right, as I mentioned, there are some problems with those last 3 items in row 45, 46 and 47, and that's because there's no additional information as to where these came from, which needs to be populated at some time, and this may cause problems later on in the actions, so we must bear in mind that these 3 are missing. However, the rest of the seed will be there, and if we go to germplasms, half subseed, and let's filter again on today, and it has in any case got filler from that previous exercise which we did, but these are all the families, and there are 44 in total if you look here. and we now have a whole lot of families registered with these RPS numbers. Now before we populate and design our next trial, which will be this one here, ACPFT21, we had problems with uploading line 45 and 46. I've already populated 47, but we need to add 45 and 46, these two seed lots, which didn't have sufficient information, into TreePlasm. So if we go to infusions and infusion germplasms, we can add these two by hand. So let's get the name of the first one, place it in here for that half subfamily. Its infusion source is unknown, so let's go and put a plus here. The species, let's assume that we do know that it is Acacia crassicarpa, and we click here for unknown and save, and then we've created an unknown infusion source. We just have to add it here as the one applicable. So I've done that. It's ACC and without any other details. We'll just add the other one quickly. Infusion source ACC. The unknown one. Save. Excellent. So now we want to design the next trial, which is ACPFT21, and we need to check that that trial is in the system, and we add a trial ACPFT21. We'll call it a Progeny trial. The planting date, let's make it a year later than the previous one, and we'll call it active, and this time we're going to leave this as required and save it. It says it's been successfully added. If I click on this button, it lists all trials, and there we can see it. So we are actually ready to populate that trial by going to data uploads again. I'm going to use the entries path this time. I'm going to go to add, the site name, just give a description, ACPFT21, our first upload. This time I had changed some data on the trial, so I'm going to get it fresh. Tab 4, and we go next. We pair replicate with replicate, block with block, dummy plots with plots, trees with tree number, treatment with treatment name, germplasm with germplasm, species with species, and propagule upload. The upload is now complete and the log indicates no errors. We can go and have a look to make sure that the trees are there. So we go to trees alive, and we search on or filter on that trial. And we see the 1,470 trees. which is the same as this data set. We now come to the measured data set of ACPFT21, and I'm using the same data set again, but this time I have inserted the dummy plots which are allocated to the trial so that we can identify each tree as in its physical location. Now before we upload the measurements, we need to just make sure that those measurements in yellow here are all in TreePlasm, those characteristics. So we go to our lists and characteristics, and as you see in this particular data set we don't have anything called filler, so I can add that. Filler, abbreviation can be F, and it is a numerical field, so I'll leave that as numerical, and because it's numerical it has a length as it is there, so I save that. We now need to look for height, HT. We can ignore the number afterwards, the age afterwards, as TreePlasm works out the age from the date of measurement and the date of planting, or if you give it its age, it will take the date of planting and add that on to give a date of measurement. So we do have filler, which we've added, and height. The next one is dBH A, B and C. We have dBH, so we'll add the A, B and C. I'm using the exact abbreviation that is found in the database, in the spreadsheet. Give it some decimals, and we do the same for dBH, B and C. We also have STR and fork and remarks. Right, now we have all the characteristics listed here which will be uploaded. Normally one wouldn't have to add the characteristics because they'll be there from previous uploads. We go to data uploads again. We now go to the last one, which is to add a tree calculated measures and tree measures. We put in our site name, let's, to be safe, just upload it again fresh. It's sheet 5. Go to next. That's sheet 5. We must put in an age. The age is 96 months. One either puts in that age, or you can put in the date of measurement, which will calculate then 96 months. We go to next, and we do our little pairing exercise. Treatment is not necessary to pair here. Filler with filler, and it hasn't got an age, but height has got an age. So have these values, and the remark it didn't pick up. Let's pair it for it, and put in 96 months. And we upload. This will take a little while because it's a fair amount of data. And here we have the log file saying that it's complete, listing everything that's been done. If we go to trees and current measures, and we filter on this particular trial, there are the measures. There are the measurements. It has a funny date measured. That is because we most likely didn't register the proper tree establishment date. You see the planting date is not a proper one. One can correct that by selecting all the trees of this trial, and there is an option here to set selected tree date planted to match that of the site. We can select go, and now we have the correct planted date here. And I have revised the trial planting date to this date, and all the trees are on that date of planting to give us enough months for the measurements which we uploaded. So finally, to summarize what we've done, we've uploaded the original clones which were used as new infusions, which came from Fiji, etc. So these are the clones. These clones were then uploaded into the seed orchard, which is this seed orchard which we made, which was a row column seed orchard. If I click on the leaf here, I get the trees in that orchard, and those trees were made selections, and their selection IDs were populated, and seed was harvested from these. So we uploaded half sub seed derived from the orchard, which is here, and here you can see it, the exact location of the female trees which gave that seed. And then we uploaded these seeds into a new trial, which was a plot row column trial, and that's this one here, the top one. And if we click on there, on the leaf again, we get the trees for that trial, and here they are with their pedigrees. There's a filler there, there's these different halves of families there, and we can go to the measurements of those trees, which we also uploaded, and there they are, the different characteristics, their age, the date measured which is calculated on 96 months from the planting date, which we've corrected. Thank you.